Have you ever climbed a flight of stairs and felt like you'd just run a marathon? Or noticed your ankles swelling up after a quiet day at home? You might brush it off as just getting older. But what if your body is trying to tell you something urgent about your heart? Today, we're talking about 7 subtle signs your heart isn't healthy after 60. And trust me, some of these will surprise you. Because heart trouble doesn't always start with chest pain or collapsing. Sometimes it whispers. And if we ignore those whispers, they can turn into shouts. Let's start with the first 3 signs, including one you've probably blamed on stress or a bad night's sleep. The first sign? Swollen ankles or feet. Now, I know what you're thinking. I've had swollen ankles for years. It's just part of aging. But here's the truth. While mild swelling can happen after sitting too long, persistent puffiness, especially if it leaves a dent when you press it, could mean your heart isn't pumping blood effectively. Fluid builds up because your kidneys aren't getting enough oxygen-rich blood to filter it out. Take my friend Carol. She noticed her ankles ballooning every evening but chalked it up to her arthritis. It wasn't until she mentioned it to her doctor that they found her heart was working at just 40% capacity. The good news? With medication and lifestyle changes, she's back to gardening and even joined a water aerobics class. So, if your shoes suddenly feel tight, don't ignore it. Your heart might be begging for attention. Now, the second sign is shortness of breath during simple activities. Not climbing mountains. I'm talking about tasks like making the bed, walking to the mailbox, or even talking on the phone. When your heart struggles, fluid can back up into your lungs, making every breath feel like you're sipping air through a straw. My neighbor Frank noticed this. He'd get winded tying his shoes, but he blamed it on being out of shape. Turns out, his heart wasn't pumping enough oxygen to his muscles. His doctor called it silent heart fatigue. But here's the kicker. Frank started doing chair yoga and swapped processed foods for potassium-rich veggies, like spinach and sweet potatoes. Within months, he could walk his dog again without stopping every few steps. Small changes, big wins. The third sign, unexplained fatigue that sticks around. Not the, I stayed up late binge-watching my show tiredness, but a deep, bone-weary exhaustion that doesn't improve with rest. This happens because your heart isn't delivering enough oxygen to your organs and muscles. You're running on empty. A study in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that seniors who reported sudden, severe fatigue were 60% more likely to have undiagnosed heart issues. But here's the key. This isn't a life sentence. Simple fixes like staying hydrated, managing stress, and checking for anemia can make a world of difference. My cousin Linda thought her fatigue was just old age until her doctor adjusted her medication and added a daily 10-minute walk. Now she says she feels reborn at 68. Now, I know this might feel overwhelming. But knowledge is power. If any of these signs sound familiar, write them down. Talk to your doctor. And remember, catching these whispers early can change everything. In the next part, we'll dive into signs 4 and 5, including the one most people dismiss as just fatigue. You'll be shocked how everyday habits could be masking a bigger issue. Until then, grab a glass of water, put your feet up, and let's promise ourselves this. We'll listen to our bodies, one gentle heartbeat at a time. Now, let's talk about the signs that hide in plain sight. The ones we often blame on just getting older or having a busy day. These next 3 clues might surprise you, especially number 5. It's the one most people shrug off as fatigue or stress until it's too late. Sign number 4, dizziness or lightheadedness when standing up. You know that whoosh you feel when you hop out of your favorite chair too fast? If it happens often and leaves you grabbing the nearest countertop, It could signal your heart isn't keeping up with your body's demands. My buddy Tom learned this the hard way. He'd get dizzy every time he stood up, but he blamed it on his new blood pressure medication. Turns out, his heart was struggling to pump enough blood to his brain. His doctor called it orthostatic hypotension, a fancy term for your heart needs a tune-up. Tom started drinking more water. Dehydration worsens this, eating smaller meals and rising slowly. Now he jokes, "I've mastered the art of the slow motion stand." Now, sign 5, the one most people dismiss as fatigue, a nagging cough that won't quit. Not the kind from a cold, but a dry, hacking cough that lingers for weeks. This happens when fluid builds up in your lungs because your heart isn't moving blood efficiently. Take my neighbor Margie. She'd been coughing for months, blaming it on allergies or just being tired. Her doctor even prescribed cough syrup, but when she started coughing up pink-tinged phlegm, that's when tests revealed her heart was functioning at half capacity. The good news? With treatment, her cough vanished, and she's back to singing in her church choir. So, if you're reaching for cough drops more than usual, don't ignore it. Your heart might be crying out. Sign 6, loss of appetite or nausea. You're not hungry, even for your favorite pie. Food just doesn't appeal. This happens because a struggling heart can reduce blood flow to your digestive system. Your stomach essentially says, "I'm too tired to work." A viewer named Harold wrote to me about this. He'd lost 15 pounds without trying and thought it was just aging. His family pushed him to see a doctor, and thank goodness they did. His heart was so weak, his body was prioritizing vital organs over digestion. After treatment, he regained his love for Sunday pancakes and his energy. So, if your appetite's gone missing, don't chalk it up to boredom. Investigate. Now, I know this feels heavy, but here's the hope. Every one of these signs is a warning, not a verdict. Catching them early gives you power. Maybe it's adjusting your diet, adding gentle exercise, or simply tracking your symptoms. Small steps can steer your heart back on track. But there's one more sign, the sneakiest of all, that we need to uncover. And I'll share simple, science-backed habits to protect your heart starting today. So take a moment to reflect. Maybe jot down any signs you've noticed. Your heart's whispers are worth listening to, because you're worth fighting for. We've talked about swollen ankles, breathlessness, fatigue, dizziness, coughs, and lost appetites. But there's one last sign, a quiet, sneaky symptom that creeps into your nights. It's the reason my friend Bob almost missed his heart's cry for help, and why I'm so glad he didn't. Sign 7. Waking up multiple times at night to use the bathroom. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's just my aging bladder. But here's the twist. When your heart struggles, fluid that pools in your legs during the day gets flushed back into your bloodstream when you lie down. Your kidneys work overtime, and suddenly, you're playing musical chairs with your bathroom. Bob thought it was normal. At 68, everyone pees like a racehorse at night, he'd say. But after 3 trips became 5, his doctor ordered tests. Turns out, his heart was barely keeping up. With medication and a low-sodium diet, Bob's nighttime adventures? Down to 1, and he's finally sleeping through the night. So, if your bladder's hijacking your sleep, don't shrug it off. Your heart might be whispering for help. Now, let's tie this all together. These 7 signs, swollen ankles, breathlessness, fatigue, dizziness, coughs, lost appetite, and nighttime bathroom runs, are your body's way of waving a red flag. But here's the good news. You don't need a medical degree to take charge. Start with these simple steps. Track your symptoms in a journal. Note when they happen and how they feel. Swap processed foods for heart heroes like oats, berries, and olive oil. Move gently. Even seated leg lifts or arm circles boost circulation. Talk to your doctor about any sudden changes, no matter how small. My neighbor Ethel started doing this after watching our last video. She caught her fatigue up, adjusted her meds, and now she's line dancing twice a week. I thought my spark was gone, she said. Turns out, my heart just needed a little love. Your heart isn't just an organ, it's your lifeline. And it's never too late to show it some care. Maybe today, you'll drink an extra glass of water, take a sunset stroll, or finally call your doctor about that cough. Small steps, big impact. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed any of these signs? What changes will you make? Drop a comment below. Your story might inspire someone else to take action. And if this video helped you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Together, we're building a community that listens to its heart. Literally. Here's to quieter whispers, stronger beats, and mornings where you wake up feeling truly rested. Your heart's got decades left to shine. Let's make sure it does.